You probably think you know just about everything there is to know about workwear. But if you look a little deeper, you're probably thinking about American workwear. You're thinking about blue jeans, double knee Carhartts, canvas jackets, but you're probably not thinking about French workwear. Because in the era where all these revolutionary brands were born in the United States, similar brands, but different, were popping up all over the world. But the question remains, why does the American interpretation have so much more resonance than the French? Because today, I want to talk about a pair of pants that very well could have been the 501s of France, but just didn't make it. That mobility. And because I'm talking about workwear, you might already be typing up your soft hands brother comment right now, but just bear with me for 1 second. Yes, these things all started their life in answer to working people's demands in a period of time where the world was changing very rapidly. We had steel and railroads and huge factories, and for the first time we had access on a large scale to cotton clothes. And yes, somehow these styles filtered from the factories and mines into our daily lives.
I'm not here to tell you to buy American Eagle jeans.
Before we get too deep into the French stuff, I just want to talk about the main players in American workwear. Levi's, Carhartt, Dickies, the list goes on. But there are hundreds of names that you don't know and probably will never know. For example, this shirt was made by a brand called Flies. Flies was a brand that I learned about from a display case that we found in an abandoned grocery store outside of Huntsville, Alabama. Flies would have been like a lot of workwear brands, a regional distributor making really common sense clothes for guys in the area. In that area, it was mostly for farmers, so stuff like chore coats and overalls, but there were brands like this all over the country. So the fact that something like Levi's or Carhartt lasted like 100+ years to become a globally known brand, how does that even happen? And the interesting thing is that while this is happening in the US, the same thing is happening in France. There are brands moving kind of parallel to each other with slightly different interpretations of what work clothing looks like. While Jacob Davis in 1871 is designing the prototype of what would become Levi's jeans, in 1844-ish, there's a guy named Adolphe Lafont who is doing something similar in France. So here at 25 Grand Rue La Guillotière was where the French work pant, as we know it, was invented by Adolphe Lafont. Adolphe Lafont now no longer makes their stuff in France, no longer makes their stuff the way they used to. This is like going to the Silver Camp outside Reno, Nevada, where Jacob Davis first invented Levi's jeans. Jacob Davis and Levi Strauss did not invent denim clothing. That was already happening. What they did was they just put rivets in it and mass produced it and then sued anybody who tried to copy them. Over here in France, this brand takes something that guys are probably having their local tailor make for them. He's the first one to really make a brand around it. These pants are called Largeot. It's large, Largeot. They are meant to be big pants. They're tapered around the ankle so that nothing gets caught, you know, if you're moving around a factory or if you're climbing on a roof doing carpentry or anything. And they're really sensible, well-made clothes. But you probably haven't heard of them. This interpretation, Levi's interpretation, a straight leg, 5-pocket jean, and there's this other thing that just never takes off globally. But if you're wondering, okay, why do I care about this stuff? I think the place we see French workwear most in the US is in the vintage market.
Specifically chore coats, because for the French worker, chore coats and Largeot were often worn as a set. Call it a French tuxedo. The same material, the same quality, and the same ability to tell story through wear and patina. You'll see them on the likes of people like Austin Butler, Harry Styles, Jeremy Allen White. Now, where might the stylist of a tastemaker celebrity go to pick up the perfect French work jacket? They might go to the same man that we went to for knowledge and expertise on the history of French workwear.
My name is Abe Lange. I run Some Shit I Found, which is mostly an appointment-only showroom here in Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn. I work with a lot of brands and individual clients and other vintage dealers, and I kind of purvey mostly distressed, beat-up stuff that, you know, is still wearable and has some kind of interesting aesthetic to it.
All good vintage sellers are basically historians in their own right, but Abe takes it a step further, working as the vintage clothing appraiser for Antiques Roadshow.
So what we have here is a pair of jeans that I would date from between 1890 and 1910. So bucklebacks went away in about the 1940s as the belt became more ubiquitous. These are rarer than Levi's. I've only seen one other pair of Pacific Coast that was found in a mine in 2020. I would say conservatively at auction, these would be worth $15,000 to $20,000.
Wow.
So we came in today because you know a lot about French workwear. Why is French workwear desirable on the vintage market? Where does it stand in fashion right now?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to that for sure. I think it kind of reached a peak in terms of value and interest maybe a couple years ago. Kind of suddenly, I think a lot of people who are taking more like vintage inspiration for things would see a lot of these cool characters wearing this stuff. That and people just getting more into vintage overall. We're kind of at like critical mass now, potentially, but vintage is like at an all-time high. So especially a couple years ago, it really blossomed.
Because we've been talking a lot about Adolphe Lafont in this one.
The overall consensus is that they're the first, and I think certainly like part of that, which shouldn't be lost, is like they're definitely like pushing that too.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, there's nothing to contradict that. So this one's probably like more 40s, 50s than 20s, 30s, 40s, but still kind of a thick moleskin. And this person probably was painting in like a less artistic way, just given the colors. But yeah, this one maybe a little less smart because of all the paint, but you know, still very practical, has the big pocket in here, and just nicely worn in, which is like kind of a consistent theme here.
Yeah,
so
gorgeous. We went down to his main showroom, and while we were down there, Abe pulled out a tank top, a part of the French worker's uniform I didn't even know existed. And it occurred to me that the general public might not think of workwear when they think of French fashion.
When people think of fashion and they think of France,
Yeah.
they think of like the word chic, they think of, haute couture. A lot of Americans who have not spent time in France, who only go to Paris or only think of Paris, don't even realize that like the middle of nowhere France, and I've lived there before, is not unlike the middle of nowhere Indiana or something. People out there aren't wearing like black turtlenecks and slacks from, YSL.
yeah.
They have to wear real clothes.
As you can see, there are plenty of amazing French short coats on the market, and Abe is an expert at curating them. But even for him, it is really hard to find wearable Largeot nowadays.
And with the pants, the average size, if you're looking around in France, is probably like 34, 27. So finding something that's like over a 30 inseam at all is tough, and finding something that's like a 30-ish size, also really tough. So I'll have clients that are like, hey, can you find me like a 30, 34, like preferably black? And I'm like,
Nope.
I'll be in France for a month, maybe. Like I'm digging around like every day and maybe I'll find it. So if you find one that fits you, especially pants wise, I'd say like, go
the
for
most
it.
important
That's like,
thing.
you don't even need to look at details beyond that.
As you saw, we were already in Lyon, but if I wanted to learn more about this archaic garment, I was gonna have to go deeper into the countryside to the last factory still making them in the country, Le Laboureur in Digoin.
What I didn't know was that it is pretty far from anything else. The nearest major city is Lyon. Very importantly, we missed our train on the way out. I put us on the wrong train, it went the wrong way, so we had to take an Uber to catch the train at a train station and then get on our bus. We successfully got on our bus. We went way, way out. We were driving through like lumber country and wine country until we were dropped off in Digoin. The factory is everything that I hoped it would be. It's super 70s inside, and it sort of functions as a store. If you are in the area and you can go there, they have all of their stock laid out beautifully in this big front area. And I was like a kid in a candy store.
Hello, my name is Jean, and I'm the co-owner of Le Laboureur with my brother Vianney. Here at Le Laboureur, we do mainly old-fashioned workwear for real, actual workmen.
Jean and his brother were actually trained workers, and they bought Le Laboureur in order to preserve the culture of manufacturing French workwear in the country.
What I love in this company, in Le Laboureur, it is that it is an everyday challenge between the past and the future. When we bought the company, Jean-Charles did a good job to keep up, but he was 60 years old, the company was getting old with him. For example, when we came here, there were only one computer with internet, and only in the morning because the connection wasn't working.
In the morning you had internet.
So we had to invest in it. We had to to replace the girl who were getting retired, so to train the new woman how to make the clothing. Doing all of that, that's been modernized the company with keeping our roots deep in the soil and being able to say, I am proud to make changements, but do not worry, that will not change the core of the company.
Can you explain what are sort of the main pieces of the compagnon or the French workman's garb, his clothing?
I'd say the main piece of clothing they wear is the trousers called le Largeot, that some people still want to wear for working, and that's our main customer.
Almost all the trades are broken up into different guilds or unions, what are referred to as compagnons, and all of these trades have different colors associated with them. I had never been able to get a clear definition of which color went to which job. Back home, opinions differ on exactly what the color schemes mean.
There's a lot of different colors beyond blue and black. There's white, there's green, which was often people working kind of gardening related jobs. There's like dark red, which a guy found that were associated with people in a prison, and that like sent shockwaves within the like French workwear ecosystem, if you can call it that. It's like 10 people.
But Jean had clear answers to my questions.
The colors are kind of easy to recognize what trades you are in. The roofers and carpenters, they are wearing only black, while the joiners, cabinet makers will wear brown trousers. The blacksmith will wear more kind of blue colors, and stonemason in France, we work a lot more with white stone, so they have this kind of écru cream trousers.
And one other thing, if you've ever bought a pair of French work pants, you've seen there's this little pocket on the side. I know it's for some kind of tool, but it seems so tiny. What do you put in there? One cigarette? Like I get Carhartts and painter's pants have hammer loops and big pockets you can put things in, cargo pants, I get that. What is this little pocket for?
This may be naive of me. This is such a narrow pocket. I've always wondered, what do you put in there?
You put the, comment dire, le crayon, the pencil.
Okay.
And the ruler.
Pencil and ruler.
Yeah. You always need a ruler and a pencil when you are working.
I've always wondered that.
And I do not know how you could work without that. This is not in the past, this is an everyday challenge. Unfortunately, maybe for some people it was always better before. And maybe it was. So we need always to focus on quality. We always need to focus on the product and also on the people. It is what is important for us here, and I'm working for the people who are here.
It's hard to do this stuff, and there's not a lot of people that are doing it with integrity. Almost every American workwear brand has totally forsaken its original clientele, either in favor of just going full fast fashion and making stuff really flimsy and bad, or just kind of trying to go high fashion and sort of losing the thread. They're so serious about keeping the flame alive here. That makes it just almost the perfect brand, because they're not trying to change year after year and constantly reinvent themselves. There's a reassurance there and a maturity there. And it also means that you or I could buy something this year, and if you're actually a worker, or if you hike, or if you skate, or if you do anything, you could go back and get the same thing. When has that ever happened to you with your Levi's?
So I'm not saying you have to go out and buy a full Laboureur outfit. I mean, I did. And I bought fits for the whole crew. It's 3 of us. Something can be beautiful and small. And the cool thing about Le Laboureur is it's going well. It's becoming easier to find in the US. There's an account called Gardenaire in, I believe, upstate New York that you can shop their stuff from. If you're ever willing to make the schlep in France, you absolutely should do that, because the factory is amazing and you can buy everything there. And the coolest thing, Le Laboureur is not a fashion brand. It is a true workwear brand. What they have in store is basically what they have had for the duration of their existence. There are no plans to change it. They're not trying to mix it up or mix up the fits for like whatever is cool in a given year. You can go in and buy the same exact fit that your grandfather wore when he went to work, and it's made in the same place at the same level of quality. Where else is that happening? I really have to thank Le Laboureur and Jean specifically for making so much time for us. And I want to go back to France and dive even deeper into French workwear, because I think it is so fascinating. Check out Le Laboureur. Like and subscribe. we want to do more of these adventures and we need money.
Please. Up or down?